afternoon. Good August. What is this? August 11th? August 12th? Who cares? It's Thursday. That's all I know. And you know what that means? It is Shades of Purple, episode 20, with none other than Jack. I'm just going to call him Jack D and have him explain his last name because I have no way to pronounce it. Y'all know I'm from Texas. Cannot pronounce it. And everybody who's from Texas, you can't pronounce it either. But either way, it's been a super long week. I'm really excited to see everybody here. Let me give some shout outs to people. Holtz, awesome job alumni. Sanchez, you've always been an amazing supporter. Thank you so much. Rudix, amazing show, y'all. If y'all have not seen the amazing duo that's Chat Stadia, check out episode 19. You will not regret it. Jack, obviously, no spoiler alerts, but we may be hearing more from him later. And then we have Wit. We have Ambi, Geek Ayo. What's up, Geek? Thank you all so much for being here. But I'm super excited about this week's guest because this week's guest is kind of like this mysterious force in the community. You know, people call him Santa. People are giving him shout outs everywhere. This guy is probably the most popular person. But if you try to find his content, it's muy pequeño. Not really there. If you try to look for him in gaming, you don't really see him too much unless you go to Stadia Hunters, and this guy has like some of the most time put into Stadia. So who is he? And I want to bring him out so he can kind of explain who he is. So without further ado, Jack, what's up? And before you start saying, how do you pronounce the last name? Because we hear MM2K butcher it all the time. But
It's true. Yeah, it's Deslippe is how we pronounce it. So you kind of delete the last P and E. It's Deslippe.
Deslippe.
Yeah. I had a professor at one point who was like, thought I was a gangster because I give people Deslippe.
Ooh. I like it. No wonder you don't have a gamer tag. You just have a gangster name to start off with. No, that's super awesome. Well, Jack, I mean, obviously you put your name out there. Everybody can look you up. Super smart guy, y'all. If y'all did not know, this guy really is like a doctor. And he really does a lot of really big brain type of stuff. But Jack, I want you to kind of explain, could you give us a little glimpse of who you are?
Yeah, so I'm what you might consider a secret Canadian, meaning I was born in Canada, but I'm now living in Oakland in California.
I see the similarities there. Lots of similarities.
Okay.
No, I'm joking. Go ahead, Jack.
Okay. So I do. I work in the field of supercomputing, which you can kind of think of a little bit like it's kind of like cloud computing with a little bit more state-of-the-art components and kind of more tightly coupled compute nodes. So, in my day job, I kind of work with scientists all over the country who do things like climate modeling, cosmology, chemistry, and I help them write simulation and data analysis applications for our computers. So that's kind of like my professional background. And then I think one of the first things I should tell you is that I probably don't really consider myself a gamer. And I think I kind of think probably most gamers wouldn't either, but I do enjoy playing games, but I don't really care about any specific AAA game or what any trendy streamer does. I don't actually really even know who any of the big streamers are. I probably didn't even know what a AAA game was until a year ago, but I still think that that's kind of an ill-defined concept. But I have been kind of into gaming on and off over the course of my life. I had a Nintendo, a Super Nintendo, and a PlayStation
Jack,
when I was a kid.
You're jumping. We're gonna get there, Jack.
I know
you want to go straight back to the NES days. But first, I do want to ask you some more about some supercomputing stuff. I love how you just down cloud computer. We're a little bit past the Stone Age on that. But I just want to give a shout out to what's up, Ryzak? What's up, Mostly Martinez, Jinx, Rudix, obviously, Holtz, Cammy. So glad to see you again. Thank you, Cammy, for coming through. And of course, Jinx again, my veteran, my comrade. Thank you also being here. We're learning a little bit about Jack, and as he said before, really bright guy. If you, I mean, this is super computing. I don't even think I know how to spell that. And the fact that when you said you work with cosmetologists? No, not cosmetologists. Not makeup art. You don't work with
It's
makeup artists.
close.
Oh no.
Cosmologists, I guess.
Cosmologists. Okay, so that was not the beauty counter type of people. I was like, this is the most interesting job ever. But I see that's just me. But no, so I think you were saying something about that you do have kind of this mixture of like not really a gamer background, but you just named some OG systems there with NES. So you know what I'm going to ask you. What's your favorite game on the Nintendo Entertainment System?
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, this is one that probably everybody says or could say, but Super Mario Brothers 3, I think, was my favorite. We spent a summer just playing nothing but that game at one point.
It does have a catchy tune anytime you hear it and everything. And I think my brother and we spent a whole summer playing it, but we spent a whole summer getting the flutes. So anybody who's played Super Mario 3, there's 2 flutes. Get you to the last world real fast. So we did that and we thought we were so cool. But he's out there. He knows that we didn't really beat the game. But, we did for a weekend. So NES, that's where how did you get the NES? Like, tell us who you are. Like, where did this come
from? So I was a kid growing up in Winnipeg, Manitoba. At the time, and I can't remember exactly how old I was when the NES came out. We did have like an Atari system before, but I don't really remember that. Like, it must have been too young to really remember much about that system. So at some point, we got like the NES system with the Duck Hunt and the Super Mario Brothers 1 like combination. And yeah, I guess it must have been like 7, 8 or something around that time. And then I just remember when Super Mario Brothers 3 came out, we got it, must have been at the beginning of a summer, because my sister and I spent the summer playing it. And similar to you, we actually figured out, I think we read somewhere, somebody gave us a tip somewhere about how you can get like 99 lives by like setting up these turtles to like infinitely kill each other. I don't know if you remember that.
We didn't do trick, that. But 99 lives, though. I just have this image of 99 red balloons. But that's a different topic, different song, different category of entertainment. But go ahead.
So then we ended up finishing it one day, but I think we like started with 99 lives and like ended up with like 17 at the end. So
wow. So anyway, that's 80. Okay.
I mean, died a lot of times on that last world.
Oh my gosh. So you played the NES. Did you graduate the SNES? Did you or the SNES, as they like to call it in the UK? Looking at you, Holtz. Or did you do Sega? Like, where did you?
No, I never had a Sega system. Some of my friends did. But I did eventually get a Super Nintendo. It wasn't like right when it came out. My parents were never like the type of people who would buy like things right when they came out. But it was must have been like a few years later. And by that time, I was starting to play like a lot of role playing games. Those became like my favorite genre.
Okay, so which game caught you?
I still think the greatest game of all time is Chrono Trigger.
Whoa, big words. Okay. Jack, I've never played Chrono Trigger. Is this bad?
It is a good one. It's got like, I don't know, it's just like the right mix of like nice art, cool characters. Like there's like a sword wielding frog. That's awesome.
Frog. Wow. Yeah. Okay. What is this for again? What system is this for? Chrono Trigger.
Oh, it was for Nintendo. I think you can play now like on like Android or iPhone as well. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, chat, y'all have heard of Chrono? I'm like, y'all are like just like revealing all my shortcomings. Last week it was Zelda 2, this week it's Chrono Trigger. What's going on?
So it was a Squaresoft game. It came out maybe like just after Final Fantasy 3 or like what was 6 in Japan. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like I feel like it had the right the right characteristics for me at the time.
Oh my gosh! So you're always searching for your Chrono Trigger, like your next Chrono Trigger. So romantic in that. Always looking for that. So, so you're kind of RPG player. Did you do any? So a lot of people who do RPGs also like do like board or tabletop games. Was that anything in your background or?
Not really at the time. I later, like when I was a grad student, we used to play a bunch of like tabletop games, but not so much when I was a kid. I guess we played like Monopoly, but that was it. Yeah.
So, any PC games in this time frame, or because I could imagine you're pretty busy with school, and I'm talking when you're a kid. So,
Yeah.
like when you're a kid, just
Like so before I had a PlayStation, I played the Final Fantasy VII on the PC.
okay.
And like I was kind of built like I built my sort of first PC around the time that I was in high school, and I put like a Voodoo, I think it was the Voodoo 3 graphics card in there. I don't know if anybody remembers the Voodoo series. I think NVIDIA bought them out at some point. And I played Final Fantasy VII. But I never played too many of like the first person shooter games, I think. Although I did play a little bit of Counter-Strike. I'll say that for like my later high school age.
Well, that's kind of a bold statement for you to start off with. Didn't really do any shooters, and then you throw in a Counter-Strike, which is kind of like a lot.
I guess I never played I didn't play Half-Life the story. I just played like Counter-Strike, I guess.
We definitely know those types. There's always the people who are like Counter-Strike through and through.
Right.
So where are we right now? Are we like middle school? Are we high school?
This is now like late high school period, I guess.
Late high school. Okay, and this is where you said you had a PlayStation at this time.
Yeah, I guess I got a PlayStation maybe at the end of high school, I think.
End of high school.
I mostly used it to play the Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9. Like I played Final Fantasy 7 originally on the PC, but then I played 8 and 9. And that was pretty much it, actually. Actually, I don't think I played many other games besides the Final Fantasy games at that time.
So Final Fantasy, this is PS1, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah. Did you go to PS2, or is this like where you're starting to like really get serious with school? Because I can imagine being a PhD in supercomputer. I'm just going to call it supercomputers, Jack. Like I know I just have like just insulted the entire profession. We're just going to call it science. PhD in science. Right. So you have that. It takes a long time to do that, I'm sure. Did you play games leading up to it, or are you starting to like shift out of it?
Yeah, so this is probably where I had about like a almost 20-year gap in gaming, right? I played almost nothing. Although, one of the things I would say is that I've been kind of more consistently like a technology nerd. Like I've kind of always been very passionate about consumer technology as well. So probably more so than a gamer. And so and gaming has kind of touched on that a little bit, but I've gotten involved in several like tech communities in the past. So like I used to work on Linux desktop applications like in my spare time, and I'm like the kind of nerd who used to run a Linux users group in their spare time. I was sort of trying my best to bring about that fated year of the Linux desktop. And gaming did come in a little bit there. So I used to, like the tools that Valve is using now, like Proton, really derive from open source projects called Wine, for example. And so more of just like experimentation at the time. I had like installed like Half-Life 2 and Elder Scrolls Oblivion just to see if I could get them running on my Linux desktop well. And then I would play them for like 2 hours and then kind of lose interest once I proved that it could be done. So it'd be done, I guess. But
Like you're like so like what you're doing in your spare time, like companies actually spend quite a bit of money to actually accomplish and do at scale. So I think that's
Right.
kind of pretty I love how you just did like this humble brag. It reminds me of when I brought on the Lamote devs and they're like, yeah, we just like built our own game engine to, and it's like, what? And what you just like mentioned here is actually pretty cool, right? Like, so like, so
Yeah.
talk us through a little bit more about like this compute, like this nerdy computer person who's doing a lot of stuff with computers, like it's consumer tech. Like you're Jack, you're being super humble right now. Like you're like, I don't think people quite understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
So
well, athletics user group in Berkeley is kind of an interesting cast of characters. So I kind of started this group, and then, there it was a mix of like really, really, really bright people. I mean, not that the next group of people is not bright, but like a bunch of like ex-hippies who just like the idea of free software, and then like just like random other people who were like just kind of like the idea politically and, and things like that. It was like really kind of an interesting mix of people, but it was fun. And it was also around the same time that Android was getting kicked off. And so my interest in kind of desktop Linux kind of also merged into Android. And so I was kind of active in that community as well. At one point, I had 3 apps on the Android App Store. The most successful, this actually might be the most successful piece of software I ever wrote, was an app called Squirrel Cam. Which
Squirrel Cam. Okay, now tell me. I mean, I think I could understand what a Squirrel Cam does, but what is this? What is Squirrel Cam?
In our office in Berkeley, for whatever reason, like squirrels made a nest like right on the window ledge, and so there were a bunch of baby squirrels. And so we just pointed a camera at it, and the whole app was basically just you could watch the squirrels live, or you could like watch some like stills that we had taken for at various points in time. The problem was the squirrels grew up and they left the nest, and then my ratings in the App Store just started to tank over time because people were really, really pissed off that there was no squirrels on Squirrel Cam.
Get more baby squirrels, super cute
Yeah,
little
exactly.
baby squirrels.
Exactly.
And for chat, y'all are there, and I just want to give a shout out. I see Obi Rose, thank you so much. Awesome being on a show with you earlier this week. The climax, if y'all have not seen it, man versus woman, dating stories. I had a few on there. Paul, Mr. Byron Plays, thanks for coming. Ray, I hope you're feeling better. We're all praying for you. You know you're going through something right now. Chariot Man, I see ya. And Ryzak, oh my gosh, Ryzak, you're killing me up there. Please don't hurt me too bad, y'all. Did not play Chrono Trigger. Ellis, what up? Thank you so much again for joining us. We're talking to Jack. He's being super humble, y'all. He's like has 3 apps on the App Store. He like played with Android. He like did stuff with Linux desktop. This was all in his spare time. This isn't even like what he does in real life. He's just like, oh, I think it's cool. This is the type of person that went to school with like Larry Page, Sergey Brin. He talks to them regularly on the weekend. Chad is being super, super humble at the moment. And
they're at the other California school that we don't talk about.
Oh, the big S, yeah, y'all are all the same in my book. But yes, no. So Jack, so you had this Squirrel Cam thing. Did you make money off of it? Can I ask that?
Not off a Squirrel Cam. I had 2 other apps. One that I don't know if anybody. I think this actually site is still up. emusic.com, which was like one of the first DRM free music stores that was available. That you could just pay for like MP3s rather than like iTunes at the time was some sort of encrypted or like DRM encumbered music files. But anyway, they didn't have an app on Android, and so I kind of wrote one, and I made a little bit of money. But the way that I did it, it was just like the app was free and the pro version was identical in every way. It's just like if you wanted to buy me a beer, you could pay for this. And so I made enough money off of that like per year to like buy a new phone every year, but it wasn't like wasn't a ton of money.
It's still the fact that you had it, like, this is like blowing my mind, like what you, because like we all remember this time, like the mid 2000s, right? This is, or maybe early to mid 2000s, and this stuff is
Yeah.
all kind of new. E-music, you said emusic.com.
Yeah, I think it's still up. My app is not available anymore because they eventually did roll out their own. Yeah, emusic.com.
So you're part of that initial wave of like Android app store, just wild west of apps.
Yeah, exactly. It was definitely a Wild West.
It was extremely a wild west of apps. Like some things didn't work on certain Android phones. We all remember that. We all remember that for sure.
But it was really fun time. Like everything was so new, and just people kept like stepping up to make the platform better, and like developing a bunch of tools or custom ROMs and apps to fill in gaps that like lots of people could benefit from. It was kind of like an inspiring time, I think.
No, I think it was like a huge renaissance in tech, right? We were coming out of the .com bubble. It was like we're not getting seed money from venture capitalists. It was just people who like to play with computers, just making things. And some of those people grew up to make Facebook. Different. That's a different thing. So you had no gaming during this time frame, right? You're obviously brilliant. You go to school, spend a lot of time in school to learn about like do I call you a physicist or do I call you a technologist?
Yeah, so my degree was in physics, and I was studying at what we call condensed matter physics, which is a fancy name for materials. But I spent a lot of time studying the properties of carbon nanotubes. Which
Jack, you gotta break this down. Like I know this is like a first date and stuff, but you gotta get your girl like a little carbon nanotubes.
Yeah, so carbon nanotubes, like I don't know if you've heard of graphene, but like graphite is what pencils use to write on paper, right?
I thought graphene was a girl I went to school with, but okay, I'm following you on graphene here.
So the reason why graphite makes good kind of like lead in a pencil, like pencil lead is not lead, it's graphite, is because it's like a flaky substance. And so if you take actually a single layer of graphite, it's a single layer of carbon. So I don't know, hard to describe here actually. Like the lights behind me, actually, like those nanoleaf lights. If you put like a carbon atom on there and you make a sheet out of it, so there's like a carbon atom on each one of those points of this light here, and then you roll that sheet up into a tube, you get a carbon nanotube. And right around the time I was in grad school was around the time that these were first being fabricated in like the lab, that they could make these and they could control like the diameter and things like that of these materials. And so I spent a lot of time like studying the properties of these materials using supercomputers. And what I kind of decided over the course of my PhD is I like the supercomputing aspect of it more than I like the kind of carbon nanotube or the specific application of the research. And so I ended up kind of focusing a bit more on like the computational aspects of it. And so like the way that we use a supercomputer is you don't just run an application on like one processor or one box, but you use like thousands. Like you can think of taking your desktop and replicating it like 10,000 times, and you want to try to run a single simulation across like all 10,000 at once. And that's sort of what makes a supercomputer a supercomputer. And so that's the part that I kind of found fun, and that's what I now kind of do as a day job.
So last week we heard about a Stadian using 11, using like his computer to control 11 Destiny players. But you've decided to take this like a step further, to use a supercomputer to control like 10,000 simulations simultaneously. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, sort of. You might think of it as like one big simulation that's using like 10,000 computers. So instead of one computer controlling something for 10 people, we have 10,000 computers all working together to solve one problem.
I think I'm going to name my firstborn Graphene after. That's what I got from this. That's such a pretty name.
I'm sure
my mom would
Elon
be like,
Musk has a daughter who's named Graphene already.
no, that's super cool, Jack. So, like, obviously, I'm just super impressed. And I love how anytime I talk to someone who has a PhD, they end up in one place and end up going into the other. I don't think I've ever met someone who's like, I went into this and I stuck into it.
Right.
So, definitely, curiosity takes you many places. So, after you got done dealing with graphene, and then how she led you to the supercomputer realm of doing a mini. Jack, I know I'm butchering your entire career right now. Just let me go. Like, once you did all this, like, eventually you decided to stop with the supercomputers and come back to the lowly cloud computing and gaming. Like, right? Like,
yeah, I think that maybe somehow over the last like 5 years or so, I've kind of gravitated more to the web as my platform of choice. So I'm now maybe what you would consider a rare breed in that I am kind of a Chrome OS power user, which is it's kind of like an oxymoron or something. But I think it's my belief now that it's the web that I think can finally deliver on what I was kind of working towards as a Linux advocate back in the day. And that's kind of like a software or like a service experience that just works on whatever device or screen or OS you want. And that's kind of what led me into cloud gaming. So my first experience with cloud gaming was actually with GeForce Now back on the NVIDIA Shield, which is a great device, by the way.
Yeah. No, GeForce. So on the GFN. So when is this? Tell us what time.
So this is maybe like 5-6 years ago. So this was GeForce Now in its original incantation, like back on the original Shield TV device. And I do remember kind of just being immediately blown away by how well the games felt. Like AAA games just worked really amazingly well on the device that had basically a mobile processor. And then, at some point, NVIDIA kind of shook up their business model with GeForce Now, and they decided against running their own platform, and they instead became more of like a cloud gaming front end for Steam. And I guess now like the Epic Store and GOG and others. And I kind of had, and I still have mixed opinions on that because they definitely increased like their game count really quickly. But the experience has always just been very, I think, clunky is the word that I would use to describe it. So like there were many times that I'd open a game and I'd land in like Steam and be forced to like wait for an update from the Steam server to the NVIDIA server before you could even start playing, right? And so I just got to believe that the gaming industry can do more with the cloud than what is basically like a remote desktop client running desktop apps. Like, for example, can you imagine if Netflix, instead of being like a proper cloud service, was simply a remote desktop app that launched iTunes and asked you to buy a movie on iTunes and then play it via the iTunes desktop media player that was just streamed to you? That's kind of what like GeForce Now evolved into. And so that sort of set the stage for Stadia. And when I watched the Stadia keynote, I think the message just really resonated with me. It felt like GeForce Now, but done right. With kind of a cloud-first approach, not just adding remote access to desktop apps. And then so I kind of ordered the Founders Edition, and I was pretty impressed. I thought Stadia looked great. It played about as well as GeForce Now did back in the day. And I felt like it had a compelling platform that I just kind of fell in love with, I think.
And we're going to get to that. And I want to say welcome to a few people. Crow, if I have not said it, you're one of my favorites. Thank you. Welcome, Crow. And your mama knows. Thank you so much. I know you had a show earlier. Deadpool Gaming. Deadpool Gaming with love. My brother from the Bayous of Louisiana. Welcome, welcome. Casey, what's up? We definitely need a party chat sometime. Chanel, Ayo, what's up, Chanel? Thank you all for joining us. We're just talking to Jack, and he is explaining so many things to your girl Purple right now. Like the hamster in my brain is spinning, keeping up. Like I learned about carboning and supercomputing. Y'all know I'm just a simple girl from the big state of Texas, living in the big city of New York right now. Can't, whew, smoking right now, but we're learning a ton. And so, Jack, what we were right at, we're like, you getting into cloud gaming, right? You just said, hey, Stadia kind of did it right. It wasn't just accessing that remote desktop, but it was actually accessing. It was actually like the virtual machine itself, in a way.
Yeah, it was kind of like a cloud first or like a web first approach, where it's not just like a remoting in and accessing desktop apps, I guess is the difference.
Yeah. Science, Jack. You know, when I can't explain it, it goes to science. But so you started to get into can you kind of explain that difference there, what you just said? Because I think a lot of people would say that these two things are the same. But can you just kind of like break down, because we're kind of getting into like cloud gaming, cloud computing. And what I love to do in any of my podcasts or shows are always to kind of use it as a moment to kind of educate. And so when we think about cloud gaming, both of them could be considered as cloud gaming, but the way they get there is very different. Could you
and to be fair, at the end of the day, there's like a node, like a blade sitting in a rack somewhere where your game is ultimately running. But there's quite a bit different in GeForce Now's model versus like new model versus compared to what they were doing at the beginning versus Stadia, in the sense that GeForce Now doesn't really own anything, and running, like simply executing and displaying the output of an application from a box sitting in the cloud, or like a blade sitting in the cloud, is not all that challenging. I'm not saying that NVIDIA is not doing anything challenging there, but like as a weekend project, anyone could basically, get a remote, set up like a remote instance on AWS, install using a Windows server instance, install some Windows game, and redirect the output to their machine. Doing it with low latency is a little tricky, but essentially anybody can do that. So it's like a weekend project. But putting like together
Jack, so from what you know, is this maybe like how Boosteroid does it?
Sorry, say that again.
Boosteroid. They got a lot of like...
Yeah, that's, Boosteroid and Luna and like Vortex before them. I think they kind of all did that. They just kind of rent time in the cloud, install the games for you, and redirect the output. So that's, and I think NVIDIA does it better than other people can, because they own the hardware. They can throw like, expensive GPUs at it, and it doesn't cost them as much as it would cost like Amazon to pay for those GPUs. But at the end of the day, that's kind of fundamentally what they've built, versus Stadia, which is kind of more like a console experience. Like there's a full SDK that a game developer can choose to integrate into their app that provides things like a consistent experience for achievements, for multiplayer invitations, for leaderboards, for a whole bunch of different aspects of what I would kind of consider like a pleasant experience playing games. And then there's also specific cloud APIs that they can choose to integrate into their games as well, like Stream Connect, crowd play, crowd choice, and those sorts of things. So at the end of the day, the hardware where these things are running is kind of the same. There's a pretty big difference in the OS. Like I think Linux is just a much more scalable and more economic option for cloud gaming. But then there's this entire like software development kit, SDK layer that exists for Stadia that doesn't really exist for any of the other cloud services that really make it a platform and make it like a cohesive experience.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jack. And I just want to give shout out to two people. What's up, Hutch? I know you're out there grinding. Thank you so much for stopping by. And Banana Killer, trust me, this is your conversation. I'm going to expect you when you come on. You're bringing Jack's level of sophisticated to the I can't even say that, Jack. I'm trying to sound smart. I can't do it. But yes, welcome, Banana Killer. Welcome, Hutch. What's up, everyone? We're just talking about cloud gaming. We're talking about Jack, the person that they call Santa Claus in the Stadia community. And we're just really learning what makes him tick, how he got involved. If you can't tell, he knows a little something about technology. And thank you so much, Jack, for kind of explaining those different instances between about kind of having your own separate space in the cloud and then also having that console layer to make it kind of its own machine or instance in a way. So it's separate. So thank you for that. So that brought you to Stadia. And would you say that knowing how like Stadia is unique, knowing how it, the many different levels, and when people talk about like Stadia is so much further advanced, I think people when they say other companies are catching up, it's actually kind of hard because of the way Stadia is built versus the other kind of players out there.
Right.
And so would you say that you stick with Stadia because it's technologically more advanced, or would you say that you stick with Stadia because you enjoy it? Or is it both?
It's probably a little bit of both, but like the technology is, to be honest, what is kind of excites me to begin with. Like, as I said at the beginning, I'm kind of like more of a technologist than a gamer. And I know that the gaming community has kind of been afflicted with like toxic like tribalism for decades and like platform wars.
We're all friendly. What are you talking about?
And I think if you're at the part where you're like disowning your friends, like you've taken it too far. But I don't think that. I think that doesn't mean you shouldn't let yourself be kind of inspired and become passionate about technology. I think most of us are actually here in the cloud gaming community because platforms do, in fact, make a difference. They control where and how you can play. They can control whether you can afford to play in the first place. They can control like the look and feel of your living room and how you communicate and kind of share your experience with friends. So they're not a trivial thing. And so, I think people, myself included, I feel like can definitely cross to an unhealthy level in terms of this like tribalism. But I really do think that it's okay to let yourself be.
Uh-oh. Jack, you there?
Yeah. Oh,
okay. Yeah. I think on my end it froze up really quick, but that was a great time to just segment to say, what's up, Doc Dark 1985, another alumni Squids. What's up with 3 Z's? You come and roll peace. Thank you so much. And I think I have one more that I missed him. Where are you? I saw there's someone else here. I saw you. It's Peepo79. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for the commentary as well. So thank you all for coming. So Jack, once again, I told everybody that they call you the Santa Claus. They call you the person who just gives things away. Tell us why you seem to just want to give everything away to the Stadia community. Can you give us like where this comes from, where this passion is at, and so forth, and what exactly, and if you can tell the audience what exactly you do, so they can understand and maybe follow some of these channels.
Yeah. So this probably goes back to like after I started using Stadia as a founder, I guess in November 2019. I just kind of fell in love with it, and around June 2020, I think I made the mistake of deciding to like browse YouTube for Stadia content, and I was I guess pretty dismayed at what I saw. And that was like a lot of content creators describing Stadia as something like completely different than my own experience with it. And I started to like wonder, like, am I alone in having this great experience with the platform? But so thankfully I did keep searching, and I found like the subreddit where, I actually saw like a pretty active community. And I also found a number of like smallish YouTubers. And I kind of came up with this personal goal, which I admit I don't really have a lot of actual control over. But the goal was helping the Stadia community kind of find, support, and grow like our own grassroots community of streamers and influencers. What I wanted to do is really help create like a safe place for people to just like share their joy of the platform and to help spread that joy. And I've always been a bit of a data nerd, so I kind of live like an instrumented life. Like I track my fitness, I track all my like personal and professional projects and finances and so on. So to that end, I started tracking YouTube like channel growth, and I started originally posting on Reddit just to help people find these like great content creators on YouTube. The channels that I myself struggled to find at first, who are kind of putting out really high quality content about Stadia. And so over time, I kind of increased this to a bunch of other metrics like Twitter and Facebook community metrics, like Reddit membership, and then a bunch of metrics about like the platform itself, like Google Play downloads and reviews and game leaderboard sizes and Stadia hunters, community size, for example. And, I also did what, I couldn't afford to do back in grad school, which is to kind of put my money where my mouth, is, and try to actually make a financial difference for some of the creators and the community members who have a similar passion as I have, just in order to try to like amplify their voices. And, I've never once told anyone what to say or asked anyone to change their content. At times people have moved on from Stadia to cover different things, and I think that's totally fine. And I moved on and moved my funding elsewhere. And in most cases, no issue arose. I think in some rare cases, people have been upset that I was not interested in funding their future endeavors. So, I talked to MM2K about it, and then we decided that we'd create a program that is a little bit more like formalized, and a little bit more formal, that kind of clearly lays out our patronage kind of goals, which are to really to create the safe space to share joy about Stadia and to really just amplify existing voices who kind of share our passion. So that's essentially how this Stadia Dosage partnership program ended up being created.
Yeah. So, and just for everybody in chat, like, so I want to make sure that y'all heard that. Like, so Jack, he is such a like amazing person. He does support people both financially. He does giveaways for games. He does giveaways for play cards. He does giveaways for controllers. Mostly Martinez' son has one of the most adorable videos on all the internet when he gets his controller. He does basically any Google product. He does this, if I understood this correctly, Jack, just to really amplify the voice and really share that community aspect with other people in the community.
Right. Yeah, I think it's just it all kind of comes back to my initial shock of like what I found, what I found when I Googled Stadia, right? I don't, even coming from Linux, that is like a target of a whole bunch of what we call FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, being launched at it all the time. I'd never seen like a product or a technology as like vilified um, in the in the world at large, basically as what I saw for Stadia. And so I really felt like there was a gap that needed to be filled. We needed this like safe space to for people to just enjoy it, to create a community, to allow people to do what we did in the early days of Android, to contribute and make it better. And that's that's sort of my mission. And like when I was in grad school, I wish I could have like contributed more financially to like the Linux desktop and like Ubuntu and those projects. And I feel like I'm in a bit of a position now where I can. My family and I have been really lucky during the pandemic, where others have definitely not been so lucky. And I feel like I'm in a position where maybe financial contributions could make a bit of a difference.
No, definitely. Well, I definitely think it does, right? And I want to touch on something because I know over the last few months or so, there have been content creators who have criticized kind of this practice of supporting other content creators. Like, okay, I'm making this let me just say it straight up. There is a certain group of content creators that does not like the idea of potentially Jack, Stadia Dosage, some of these other channels supporting smaller content creators, right? It's created almost a schism within the community over the last two months. Jack, what would you say to those people who may criticize the practice of supporting creators that you enjoy their work?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of their criticism is legitimate, and I know of some, probably some of the people who have leveled some criticism, but and others maybe I don't know, but I guess what I would say to them is, there's nothing really being asked for in return. As I said, I've never really asked anybody to say anything or to change their content in any way. What I'd like to do is just amplify voices that already exists. And I get that if you've moved on and you're maybe you wish that my support was for you personally and not for the fact that I think we kind of share a similar passion, then I get that you might be peeved about that. But that's kind of just
That's it.
it's kind of
The
light.
money
I
has
think
the power, right there. So, Jack, you said your name earlier was kind of gangster, and what you said right there is probably the most nerdy way I've heard you say that I'm a gangster so far on this stream. So, more money. No, I'm not gonna get that. But so in chat right now, there are a few aspiring content creators who do Stadia content and so forth. And what would you say to them who are like, hey, maybe how can I get in contact with you, or what are some of the things you look at so I can get potentially some support, or what is it even open? Like, what's the process even look like for you to support?
Right. Yeah. It's definitely open. You just have to go to the website, stadiadosage.com, and then under the community tab, there's like a community patronage section, and you can apply. I some of the things that I think are like our favorite ways to like support somebody is through giveaways, and that is because like it helps out so many people on so many different levels. Like if you do like a game giveaway on your channel, then we can kind of provide some of the funding, and it helps your channel get noticed. But it also provides a sale for the developer of that game on the platform, and it also supports the platform itself. So it's like supporting like a number of different people involved in the community and in the platform all at once. So that's sort of one of our favorite ways, but you can see that there's a list of like 4 or 5 different options for how we could, potentially support your channel.
And it's kind of like, there's been so many times I've seen like, hey, Jax went crazy, right? MM2K always will say like, this is like the giveaway. Jax went crazy, and it's kind of like you have a habit of this, like, right? You like, I think, in chat, if you've received, whether you've done a giveaway, I actually want to show the support that you have in chat right now. So y'all, if you're in chat, I see you, Winstar. I see Project Storm. What's up? Did I miss anybody come into the chat recently? If you've received a giveaway from Jack, if you've given a giveaway that Jack helps support, could you please say like hashtag me too or something like that? Something hashtag purple. I don't care. Just let Jack know how much you appreciate him, because I think a lot of times we see these all the time in the Stadia community. We see the giveaways, we see everything else, but I just want to see if y'all can do that. Hashtag mostly Martinez, of course. Thank you so much for coming through.
I feel like Me Too really comes off as like a list of my victims or something.
I know,
like
maybe
that.
that's the wrong one. Daddy Jack, John L, Crow Resin. Thank you all so much for doing that. I think I have one too. Don't do hashtag Me Too. I know. I just thought that. I thought it the wrong way. But Jack is dope. Thank you all. Jack Daddy. Hashtag Jack. I need that check. Doc, I don't think so. I know I received one recently on Squids' channel. If Squids is in the chat, I know he's done that. So Jack is the stuff. Paul, what's up? Project Storm. This is so much. We all Jack's victims. That's another way. I'm sorry, y'all. I couldn't think of anything. I apologize. Don't. But I just wanted to show so much support, Jack, that it does not go unnoticed. It does not. I think the fact that you're looking to see how you could amplify not only voices, but how you could support the most people. I think that says so much about it, that you would rather do potentially a game giveaway, support the developer, support the channel, support the viewer, right? I think like that's extremely thoughtful way of looking at it. And potentially, yes, if someone is going to write an article or someone you do see there are other tools and avenues and approaches you will take. And I do think that it shows through and through. And I was definitely, when a lot of the criticism was coming out about the practice of supporting channels, I was kind of one of those who was a defender that was like, what's the problem? And so I really appreciate you talking about that, because I know it received a lot of certain people were definitely caught in the line of fire for that. And it came from such a great place and a good place, like morally good place, that I really respect you for that. So thank you so much for doing that.
I think one of the reasons why it got some criticism is because fairly in the past I have criticized like some of the platforms themselves for doing like maybe some similar activities, like sponsoring some of the streamers. And I don't know if my opinion has changed much. Like I don't think I would be happy actually to see Google sponsoring streamers. I don't think that would look good. I don't think it would help anybody. I think it would make people like just jealous of each other. So I feel like I'm happily in a position where I'm not associated with any of these companies, where I can consider myself part of that community and help another person. Whereas I still don't think I would welcome it from the the companies themselves, I guess.
Humble, thank you so much. Hashtag I got Jack. I see you there. Humble Bum, thank you so much. And a special shout out to Mr. Urban World. I saw you sneak in. Thank you so much for coming by. Means a lot. I think you won one of Jack's giveaways one time, but you weren't there to claim it. I think I saw that one time. And Mr. Underworld, welcome as well. So Jack, again, thank you so much. And Casey, did I not say what's up to you? I know you've been around, so thank you again, Casey. So Jack, I'm going to ask you just some really quick questions. I know we're kind of coming across that 1 hour mark, and I know I told your family I would get you back all safe and sound here, so I don't want to go too far past that. But what's your favorite game on Stadia?
Favorite game on Stadia. This is going to sort of contradict myself earlier by saying I don't care about AAAs really, but I think Red Dead Redemption 2 was probably like a really impactful game that I played maybe like a year ago or so. And I spent a lot of time on it. I think it was super fun, looked super good. So that might be actually my favorite. But then, in terms of like the time that we spent on games, like I tweeted out the other day, like SteamWorld Dig and Dig 2. Like my son and I, Arthur, played the heck out of those games. Like SteamWorld Dig 2 is an amazingly fun game.
So Red Dead obviously won Game of the Year, no small
feat.
And SteamWorld Dig, I hear a lot of that. We did a show this last weekend where we talked about some games, and SteamWorld Dig, is one of those Steam Heist.
SteamWorld Heist. Yes, that's a pretty good one too.
It came up. Okay, and then next question: what's a hidden gem on Stadia? Because you play a lot of Stadia, so like, what's a hidden gem?
Yeah, good question. I mean, the SteamWorld games could possibly be categorized in there, but maybe another one that I played a lot with my kiddo, Monster Boy. It's kind of another like Metroidvania type game. It's a 2D side scroller. That's I think I might call that one a hidden gem.
Hidden gem, and then. Last question, and y'all know what that means, last question. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end, but we'll do some shout outs here in a second. Where do you think the future of Stadia is going? Because you deal with science. You just explained cloud computing in the most genuine, technical, over purple head way I could have thought of, but it was accurate. Knowing what you know about the platform, knowing what you know about technology in general, where do you think it's going? What's up, Justin? I see you.
Yeah, I feel like people maybe had these expectations that when Stadia was going to launch, that it would like kind of immediately take over the world, reach like a critical mass, and then kind of become the competitor to PlayStation and Xbox that we've needed for like 20 years or something like that. And I think obviously that wasn't in the cards. And so I think what Google is doing is what Google is good at, is releasing and then continuing to iterate, continuing to make it better on like a month by month basis. I've seen lots of like, this is what happened with Android. This is what happened with like Chromebooks and Chrome OS. They didn't come out and solve everybody's problems on day one. Better. And that's what I see for Stadia. I see cloud gaming, in particular, just continuing to get better and better, that people don't even realize it until it's too late, that it's like
it's everywhere.
Now a big player.
It's everywhere. That's actually interesting, because I know I brought in people and they'll say, Google usually kills things, but it's interesting to show that you looked at kind of the glass half full and looked at, well, these are Google's products. This is how they do it. This is kind of their, MO about it. So that's a positive change for some. But as you all know, because I know I have a lot of gamers out there in chat, I don't care how you game as long as you're gaming. So whatever it is, just have fun. We're all here just to have fun. Most of us are adult gamers, so we're kind of awkward to begin with. But thank you so much, Jack. For explaining it. And then I know you had a couple of things you wanted to remind people about.
Oh, yes. So the main thing I want to remind people about, and thank you for reminding me, is the Stadia 1000 day event that is coming up on Monday. Actually, it's starting Sunday night. We're using one of the best ways to find it. It might be just to search Twitter for like hashtag Stadia 1000. So believe it or not, Stadia is 1000 days old, and we're going to celebrate with like a day and a half almost of streaming. And yeah, I see Ryzak in the chat. So Ryzak, I think, is actually going to be kicking it off at 9 p.m. on Sunday on his channel.
Will there be giveaways, Jack?
There will definitely be giveaways.
It's going to be giveaways?
You know my MO.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know it started on Sunday. I would have done my stream on. Oh my gosh. Oh, tear. Well, Ryzak, I'm going to be waiting. Oh, I know. This is going to be so exciting. So it's hashtag Stadia 1000, 1000 days old. There's going to be giveaways, y'all. So tons of content creators are going to be out there doing amazing stuff. Got some of them in the chat here. So if you're a content creator who's going to be doing something for the Stadia 1000, please put it in the chat. Let people know what time it is. I'll keep kind of keep talking here for a minute so y'all can all get there. But so you have that, and any other big things coming up, Jack, that you have planned or on the horizon because I know you're already thinking about the next one.
Well, the other thing that is ongoing, and it's not actually too late to get involved, is the Cloud Gaming Championship. So we're in week 4, but you can apply anytime, or register anytime, I guess I should say. And
what's first place for that? What's first place for the Cloud Gaming Championship? Just so they know, kind of get a flavor of your generosity on this.
So the first place is $500 prize. I should say that not all the funding comes from me. I'll say that none of it comes from Google, so you don't have to. Nobody accuse Google of like astroturfing or anything like that. But there are other community members who are part of this and are funding some of the giveaways. Who may not like their name to be known, and some of these contributions are very significant, I'll say.
Oh, well, thank you for being humble as always, Jack. But we definitely know that whatever the first place, you've dwarfed that many times over. We see the generosity. I'm getting that we're echoing. Hold on, Justin. You sure it's not you? Let me try. Well, we're about to shut down the stream anyway. But thank you all. Thank you all the content creators in chat. Thank you, chat. Y'all have just done an amazing job. I see you all. I see some people here who should be coming on the show relatively soon. Look at you, mostly Martinez. Looking at you, Banana Killer. See you both out there. So watch out, y'all. They may be coming on. No spoilers here. But once again, Jack, thank you so much for just doing everything you do. It means a ton to the community, and you're doing a good job. So I just want to say that from Purple to you, Jack. And
thank you. I appreciate it.
And for everyone else, as always, I don't care where you're gaming, as long as you're gaming. And if everyone's gaming in the world, I think the world's a better place. And so thank you all. You could be doing anything with your Thursday evening, Thursday morning, Friday morning for some of you. Shout out to you, Holton, Paul. But you decide to stay here and spend some time with us. So just thank you so much for that. And as always, I'm Purple Haze. And look at that. We got a guest. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, either way, I'm super excited now. I'm Purple Haze, and the proof is in the playing. All right. Thanks, y'all. Wave Jack, we got to say goodbye. All right.